Hello, welcome to our channel Learn to Score. In this video, I am going to solve problems from section 4 of Mathematics Model Paper Set 1 Andhra Pradesh State Board exam for year 2021. I hope you will like the video. Please subscribe to our channel for regular updates. Thank you. Section 4 has 5 questions. We have to answer all the questions. Each question carries 8 marks, but there is an internal choice for each question. Let us take a look at the questions. Question number 29, choice 1. A is a set of even primes. B is a set of natural numbers less than 12. And C is a set of multiples of 4 less than or equal to 12. D is a set of factors of 12. Right? We are asked to find A union B, B intersection C, C minus D, and A minus D. Right? Let's start with set A. It is a set of even prime numbers. We know that 2 is the only even prime number. That's why this set contains only one element, that is number 2. Set B is a set of natural numbers less than 12. It means B is going to have numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11 because it has to be less than 12, right? Now set C is a multiple of 4 less than or equal to 12. What are multiples of 4? 4, 8 and 12, right? Because it is said that it has to be less than or equal to 12. Set D is a set of factors of 12. 1 is a factor of 12, 2 is a factor, 3 is a factor, 4 is a factor, 6 is a factor, and 12 is a factor itself for 12, right? That's why this has got elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 12. Now let's see what is A union B. Since we got all the sets A, B, C, D, let's start with answering the questions. A union B. A union B is the set containing all the elements of A and B, right? It means we have to include all the elements of set A and set B such that you will get the set A union B. That is going to be the set containing elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11, right? As you see here, 2 is present in set A and set B also. But when you are writing the set in roster form, you will include only once. That's why we have written 2 only once. I hope you got the concept. Now let's go to B intersection C. Elements common to sets B and C is denoted as B intersection C, right? That is written here. It is about the elements common to set B and set C. Let's see. Now set C has got number 4, 8 and 12. Whereas set B has got 4 and 8 but 12 is not there, right? That's why B intersection C is going to have only 4 and 8. Let's write that. B intersection C is a set containing elements 4 and 8, right? Now let's go to C minus D. C minus D is defined as a set containing elements of C but not the elements of D. It means X has to belong to C and X should not belong to D. Means, if you take numbers like 4, 8 and 12, these elements should be there in C, means these are there, but these elements that should not be there in set D. Means 4 is there, 12 is there, 8 is only element that is there in the C set but not in the D, right? You got it? The element X has to be there in set C but not there in set D. It means only 8 is there in set C but not there in set D. That's why we write C minus D as the set containing only one element, that is 8, right? Now let's see what is A minus D. A minus D is defined as the set containing elements X such that X belongs to A and X should not belong to D, or X doesn't belong to D. Here if you see 2 is there in set A, right? But 2 is there in the set D also. It means A minus D is going to have no elements, right? That's why we write it as an empty set. A minus D is an empty set or null set, right? This is what we are asked to find. Now let's go to the next question, that is choice 2 of question number 29. If log x plus y divided by 3 equal to half log x plus log y, then find the value of x by y plus y by x. Let's start with RHS of given equation, that is half log x plus log y, right? We know first law of logarithm states that log x plus log y equal to log xy, right? It means I can write it as half log xy. The third law says that m log x equal to log x power m. If you observe, half log xy can be written as log xy power half, right? Now, since we have simplified the RHS, let's write LHS equal to RHS, that is log of x plus y divided by 3 equal to log xy power half. Now I can drop log on both the sides, right? If I drop log on both the sides, I can write it as x plus y divided by 3 equal to xy power half, right? Now let's square on both the sides. Now it becomes x plus y divided by 3 whole square equal to xy, right? Let me write it as x plus y whole square divided by 3 square equal to xy, and we know 3 square equal to 9. It means x plus y whole square equal to 9xy, right? We can expand x plus y whole square using a plus b whole square formula that says that a plus b whole square equal to a square plus b square plus 2ab, right? When you apply that formula, you can write it as x square plus y square plus 2xy equal to 9xy, right? Let me rearrange the equation further such that I can write it as x square plus y square equal to 7xy. Let's note this x square plus y square equal to 7xy and go back to the problem given, that is we have to find the value of x by y plus y by x, right? This can be written as x square plus y square divided by xy, right? Now we know x square plus y square equal to 7xy. Let's substitute that. It means we are going to have 7xy divided by xy. Once you cancel this xy and this xy, what you get is 7. So answer is x by y plus y by x equal to 7. Now let's go to the next question, that is question number 30, choice 1. For which acute angle theta, cos theta by 1 minus sin theta plus cos theta by 1 plus sin theta is equal to 4 is true. We have to find the acute angle theta, right? Now let's consider LHS, that is cos theta divided by 1 minus sin theta plus cos theta divided by 1 plus sin theta. When you simplify it, you can write it as the denominator is going to be the product of 1 minus sin theta and 1 plus sin theta, right? The numerator, this cos theta, and this 1 plus sine theta you will be multiplying, right? Plus this cos theta and 1 minus sine theta will be multiplied such that you will have it as cos theta times 1 plus sine theta plus cos theta times 1 minus sine theta divided by 1 minus sine theta times 1 plus sine theta, right? Let's further expand this. You can multiply cos theta times 1 and cos theta times sine theta, right? Like that, when you do it, you will get it as cos theta plus cos theta times sine theta plus this particular cos theta times 1 is cos theta here, then cos theta sine theta with negative sign, right? And denominator is kept as is. Now this is plus cos theta sine theta and this is minus cos theta sine theta. I can cancel them so that in the in the numerator you have cos theta plus cos theta. Denominator is kept as is, right? Now I can write it as cos theta plus cos theta equal to 2 cos theta, and 1 minus sine theta times 1 plus sine theta can be written as 1 minus sine square theta, right? Let's do that. 2 cos theta divided by 1 minus sine square theta. We know 1 minus sine square theta is cos square theta, right? This is one of the identities. So let's write 2 cos theta divided by cos square theta. Now what I can do is I can cancel this cos theta and this square, right? Now what you have is 2 divided by cos theta. Let's now equate LHS to RHS. That says cos theta divided by 1 minus sine theta plus cos theta divided by 1 plus sine theta equal to 4. That is equal to 2 by cos theta, right? It means 2 by cos theta equal to 4. It means cos theta equal to 2 by 4, that is equal to half. From the trigonometry tables, we know that cos theta equal to half means theta is 60 degrees. So answer is theta equal to 60 degrees. For that, this given expression or given equation is true. Let's go to the next problem. That is choice 2 of question number 30. Prove that sin A plus cosec A whole square plus cos A plus sec A whole square equal to 7 plus tan square A plus cot square A. Let's consider the first term, that is sin A plus cosec A whole square. If you apply A plus B whole square formula, you can write it as sin square A plus cosec square A plus 2 sin A cosec A, right? We know sin A equal to 1 by cosec A, or cosec A equal to 1 by sin A. When you apply that, these two get cancelled. It means you'll have it as sin square A plus cosec square A plus 2. Now similarly, let's expand cos A plus sec A whole square. That can be written as cos square A plus sec square A plus 2 cos A sec A. We know cos A equal to 1 by sec A, right? It means we can cancel these two also. Hence, it can be written as cos square A plus sec square A plus 2. Now let's simplify the LHS. That can be now written as sin square A plus cosec square A plus 2 cos square A plus sec square A plus 2, right? This can be written as sin square A plus cosec square A plus cos square A plus sec square A plus 4. Let me rearrange it such that I can write it as 4 times sin square A plus cos square A. This is one identity. It says that sin square A plus cos square A equal to 1, right? And let's write the remaining terms as is. Now this can be, as per this particular identity, cos square theta plus sin square theta equal to 1, I can write it as 1, right? We know that cosec square A and sec square A can be also written in different way using the trigonometric identities. Sec square theta equal to 1 plus tan square theta, right? This is what it is saying. Cosec square theta is going to be 1 plus cot square theta. Let's substitute them. For cosec square A, we'll be writing 1 plus cot square A. and sec square a, you will be writing 1 plus tan square a. Let's write that. When you further simplify it, you can get 7 plus cot square a plus tan square a. This is what we are asked to show, right? Sin a plus cosec a whole square plus cos a plus sec a whole square equal to 7 plus cot square a plus tan square a, right? Let's solve the next question. That is question number 31, choice 1. The mean pocket allowance is 18 rupees. Find the missing frequencies is the question. We are given data for daily pocket allowance as group distribution data and number of children. The frequency is given where F is given for the class 19 to 21. We have to find the value of F. The mean of this data is given, that is 18. This can be written as the class interval 11 to 13 equal to 7, 13 to 15 equal to 6. So I have tabulated again. We know that the mean x bar is defined as sigma fi xi divided by sigma fi, right? Where fi is the frequency of given class and xi is the class interval, right? But sorry, class mark. Here we know the class interval, that is 11 to 13, 13 to 15. We have to find the class mark. Class mark is defined as upper class limit plus lower class limit divided by 2. If I use this, the class mark for the first class is going to be 11 plus 13. 11 plus 13 divided by 2, that is equal to 12. Similarly, for the next class, it is going to be 13 plus 15 divided by 2, that is equal to 14. For the next class, it is 16. For the next class, it is 18. For the next class, it is 20. Next class, it is 22. And for the last class, it is 24. Now we know Fi, we know Xi, right? So we can now find Fi Xi such that we can get sigma Fi Xi, right? Let's do that now. Fi Xi is going to be 7 times 12 for the first class, that is equal to 84. For the next class, it is 6 times 14, that is also equal to 84. For the next class, it is 9 times 16. For the next one, 13 times 18. For the next one, it is f times 20. I'm writing it as 20f. Please note this. The next one, it is 5 times 22, that is 110. And the last one, it is 4 times 24, that is 96. Now let's find the value of sigma Fi Xi. It means we have to add these numbers. 84 plus 84 plus 144 plus 234 plus 20f plus 110 plus 96. When you sum them, you can write it as 752 plus 20f. Otherwise, when you are summing, you don't sum this and keep it separate and sum the rest of them so that you get 752 and then add 20f to it. So sigma Fi Xi is 752 plus 20f. Now let's find the value of sigma Fi. That is 7 plus 6 plus 9 plus 13 plus 5 plus 4 plus f, right? When you do that, you get it as 44 plus f. Now let's substitute these two, sigma Fi and sigma Fi Xi, into this formula. And we know x bar is given, that is equal to 18, right? 18 equal to 752 plus 20f divided by 44 plus f. Let's rearrange this equation such that I can write it as 18 times 44 plus f equal to 752 plus 20f. This can be further simplified and written as 792 plus 18f equal to 752 plus 20f. Let's rearrange this such that you get 2f equal to 40. It means f equal to 20. So the missing frequency is f equal to 20, right? Now let's go to the next question, that is choice 2 of question number 31. Find the coordinates of the points of trisection of the line segment joining the points 4 comma minus 1 and minus 2 comma minus 3. We have to find the coordinates of trisection of the line segment joining these 2 points. The points dividing the line segment into three equal parts are called trisection points. You got it? The points, 2 points you use such that line segment is split into three equal parts. If we are given line segment AB, the points PQ are chosen such that AP equal to PQ equal to QB, right? It has become three equal parts. If AP equal to PQ equal to QB, then we say that P and Q are the points of trisection of line segment AB. Now we are given, let's say that A and B are given. Those are these 2 points, and we have to find P and Q such that AP equal to PQ equal to QB, so that we will be in a position to answer the coordinates of the points of trisection of the line. For doing this, in coordinate geometry, we know section point formula, that is given as x comma y equal to m1 x2 plus m2 x1 divided by m1 plus m2, comma m1 y2 plus m2 y1 divided by m1 plus m2, right? Now let us consider point P. It is dividing AB into two parts, right? AP is of length 1, let's say, then PB is going to be of length 2. That's why M1 is to M2 is going to be 1 is to 2. And let me say that x1 comma y1 equal to 4 comma minus 1, and x2 comma y2 is minus 2 comma minus 3. Let's now substitute all these into the section point equation or the section point formula. When you do that and simplify it, you get P of xy as 2 comma minus 5 by 3. Let us note this. And now let's try to find the value of Q, right? Let us consider Q. As you see here, it divides AB into two parts, right? This is part 1 and this is part 2. But if you see the ratio, it is going to be 2 is to 1, right? That's why I say M1 is to M2 equal to 2 is to 1. The difference is only M1 is to M2 is different now compared to the previous case, right? There it was 1 is to 2. Here it is 2 is to 1. A is same, that is 4 comma minus 1, and B is same, that is minus 2 comma minus 3. Let's substitute all these into section point formula. And when you simplify it, you get Q as 0 comma minus 7 by 3, right? Let's write, to answer the question, let's write it as coordinates of the points of trisection of the line segment AB are P, that is equal to 2 comma minus 5 by 3, and Q, that is 0 comma minus 7 by 3. This is what we are asked to find. Let's go to the next question, that is choice 1 of question number 32. State and prove Pythagoras theorem. Pythagoras theorem is stated as follows. In a right triangle, square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. Let us consider triangle ABC, right angled at angle A, right? As you see here, the side opposite to the right angle is BC, right? That is called hypotenuse. Let me write that. So as per the Pythagoras theorem, in a right triangle, square of the hypotenuse is equal to sum of the squares of the other two sides. It means to prove the Pythagoras theorem, we have to show that BC square equal to AB square plus AC square, right? Let's do that now. Let us draw line AM perpendicular to BC as shown here. As you see here, the line drawn AM is dividing the triangle ABC into two right angle triangles, right? Those are triangle AMB and triangle AMC. We know from a theorem in triangles chapter or similar triangles chapter, it says that in a right triangle, the perpendicular drawn from vertex of the right angle to hypotenuse, divides the triangle into two right triangles. This is what we have just seen, right? But the statement we have to understand further is when this happens, when you draw a perpendicular from vertex of right angle to hypotenuse of the right triangle, it divides the right triangle into two small right triangles such that the small triangles formed are similar to each other and to the whole triangle. It means triangle AMB and triangle AMC, which are formed, are similar to each other and they are similar to triangle ABC also. Let's write that. Triangle AMC is similar to triangle AMB and that is similar to triangle ABC. Let's take a note of that. And there is another theorem. It says that for similar triangles, ratio of their areas is equal to square of the ratio of their corresponding sides. If I take ratio of triangle area of triangle AMC and triangle ABC, that is going to be equal to square of the ratio of their corresponding sides. Now what are the corresponding sides? If I take hypotenuse of all these right triangles, they are going to be corresponding sides, right? For triangle ABC, we know that BC is the hypotenuse, right? What about triangle AMB? AB is the hypotenuse, right? For triangle AMC, AC is the hypotenuse. Let's write that. BC of triangle ABC, AB of triangle AMB, and AC of triangle AMC are the corresponding sides, right? Now, as per this particular theorem, whatever we have written just now, area of triangle AMB divided by area of triangle ABC is going to be AB divided by BC whole square, because the corresponding sides, hypotenuse of triangle AMB is AB and hypotenuse of triangle ABC is BC. Their ratio, square of their ratio is equal to ratio of their areas, right? That's what we have just now written. Similarly, we can write this for another pair of triangles, that is area of triangle AMC divided by area of triangle ABC equal to AC by BC whole square, right? And as you have seen in the figure, triangle ABC is split into two small triangles, right? It means area of triangle AMC plus area of triangle AMB is going to be equal to area of triangle ABC, because these two triangles have formed out of triangle ABC, right? Now let me rearrange this particular equation. When I rearrange, I can write it as area of triangle AMC divided by area of triangle ABC plus area of triangle AMB divided by area of triangle ABC equal to 1, right? Means on both the sides I have divided with area of triangle ABC to this equation, right? Now we know area of triangle AMC divided by area of triangle ABC is AC by BC whole square, and this one is AB by BC whole square. Let's substitute that. This particular equation now can be written as AC square plus AB square divided by BC square equal to 1. Let me take BC square onto the other side so that I can write it as BC square equal to AB square plus AC square. That is what we wanted to show to prove Pythagoras theorem, right? We got BC square equal to AB square plus AC square. Hence, we can say that in a right triangle, square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of other two sides. Please note this theorem. This is called Pythagoras theorem. Let us solve the next question, that is choice 2 of question number 32. Check whether the following equations are quadratic equations or not and justify your answer. And we are given 4 sub problems. Let's start with the first problem. LHS of the first problem is x square, x minus 2 whole square plus 1, right? We know x minus 2 whole square can be expanded using a minus b whole square formula, right? Let's do that. So x minus 2 whole square can be written as x square minus 4x plus 4 and keep the plus 1 as is. And when you simplify it, it can be written as x square minus 4x plus 5, right? Now let's write RHS, that is for 2x minus 3. This cannot be further simplified. So let's equate LHS equal to RHS. It means x square minus 4x plus 5 equal to 2x minus 3. Now what I'm going to do is I'll take this 2x and minus 3 onto the other side. This is called transposing, right? When you do that, you get it as x square minus 4x minus 2x plus 5 plus 3, that is equal to 0. You further simplify it such that you get it as x square minus 6x plus 8 equal to 0. We know that generic form of quadratic equation is ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0, right? X has got the power 2, or the degree of this particular equation is 2, and the degree of this particular equation is also 2. That is why we say that it is a quadratic equation. So let me write it. X minus 2 whole square plus 1 equal to 2x minus 3 is a quadratic equation. So we are done with first part. Now let's see the second part. LHS of the second part is x times x plus 1 plus 8, right? This can be rearranged and written as x square, that is x into x, plus x, that is 1 into x, plus 8. RHS is x plus 2 times x minus 2. This is looking like a plus b times a minus b, right? That is equal to a square minus b square, right? Similarly, it can be written as x square minus 4. Now let's equate these two, LHS and RHS. When you do that, you will get x square plus x plus 8 equal to x square minus 4. Let's rearrange this such that it can be written as x square plus x plus 8 minus x square plus 4 equal to 0. This x square and this x square can be cancelled, and now it becomes x plus 12 equal to 0. If you compare this particular equation with the quadratic equation generic form, you don't have term containing x square, right? The degree of this particular equation is 1, right? Hence, it is not a quadratic equation. So let me write that x times x plus 1 plus 8 equal to x plus 2 times x minus 2 is not a quadratic equation. Let's now go to third part. That is, LHS is given as x times 2x plus 3. That can be written as 2x square plus 3x. And RHS is x square plus 1. That cannot be further simplified. Now let's equate these two such that I can write it as 2x square plus 3x equal to x square plus 1. When you simplify it, you get it as x square plus 3x minus 1 equal to 0. This is looking similar to ax square plus bx plus c, right? Degree of this particular equation is 2. Hence, the given equation is a quadratic equation. Let me write that. X times 2x plus 3 equal to x square plus 1 is a quadratic equation. Now we have to see the fourth part. LHS is x plus 2 whole cube. A plus b whole cube can be written as a cube plus b cube plus 3ab square plus 3a square b, right? So make use of that and expand this formula. Expand the x plus 2 whole cube. That can be written as x cube plus 6x square plus 12x plus 8, right? And RHS has got x cube minus 4. That cannot be further simplified. Let's equate LHS with RHS. And when you rearrange it, you can cancel this x cube and this x cube. Now what you have is 6x square plus 12x plus 12 equal to 0. The degree of this particular equation is 2. Hence, the given equation is a quadratic equation. X plus 2 whole cube equal to x cube minus 4 is a quadratic equation, right? This is what we are asked to check. Now let's go to the next question. That is question number 33, choice 1. Draw the graph of p of x equal to x square minus x minus 12 and find the zeros. Justify your answer. To do that, let's generate a table. When I take x equal to minus 4 and substitute for x square minus x minus 12, then p of x is going to be 8. I take x equal to minus 3, then p of x or p of minus 3 equal to 0. X equal to minus 2, p of minus 2 is minus 6. X equal to minus 1, p of minus 1 equal to minus 10. X equal to 0, p of 0 is 12. Sorry, minus 12. X equal to 1, x equal to 2, x equal to 3, x equal to 4, and x equal to 5 we have tabulated. Now let's plot this data. You get a curve like this, right? As you see here, p of x becomes 0 at x equal to minus 3 and x equal to 4. X equal to minus 3 is this particular point and x equal to 4 is this particular point. This is your x-axis, right? Now the question is, why I have chosen x in the range of minus 4 to 5. How do I know that I should be taking these numbers? The reason is fairly simple. If you look at this equation, x square minus x minus 12, we know that using the split the middle term method, the middle term coefficient, that is minus 1, and product of other two coefficients is 1 times minus 12, that is equal to minus 12, right? So I can write minus 12 as minus 4 times 3, that is minus 12, and minus 1 can be written as minus 4 plus 3, right? It means the data set I have taken for x, the values I have taken for x should include minus 4 and 3. In other words, actually, since we are looking at zeros, it has to include plus 4 and minus 3. Right? That is how you get to choose the values. We know that if f of x is a polynomial and a is a real number, then a is called 0 of f of x if and only if f of a equal to 0. It means when I take x equal to minus 3, then p of x is becoming 0, right? And when I take x equal to 4, p of x is becoming 0. Hence, we can say that minus 3 and 4 are zeros of p of x equal to x square minus x minus 12, right? So we found the zeros. Now we have to justify the answer. How do we justify? Whatever zeros you got, you simply substitute them into the equation and see whether you're getting the value as 0 or not. As such, we have already got 0 for x equal to minus 3 and x equal to 4. But in some cases, what happens is, your 0 may be something like 2.5. For example, you have not taken that value while constructing this table. Then you have to verify it. Otherwise also, one can verify quickly by simply substituting minus 3 for x and see whether you are getting 0 or not. Let's do that now. P of minus 3 can be written as minus 3 whole square, that is x square, minus times minus 3, that is minus x, minus 12. When you simplify it, you get it as 0. So let me write it. P of minus 3 equal to 0. It means we have verified one of the zeros of given polynomial, right? Now let's see P of 4, that is also equal to 0. Hence, I can say that P of minus 3 and P of 4 are equal to 0, so that minus 3 and 4 are zeros of P of x. That is equal to x square minus x minus 12. Right? Now let's go to the next problem. That is the last part of the question paper. Choice 2 of question 33. Draw a circle of radius 6 centimeters. From a point 10 centimeters away from its center, construct a pair of tangents to the circle and then measure their lengths. Verify by using Pythagoras theorem. We have three subparts into this. We have to construct two tangents and then measure their lengths and then verify the lengths using Pythagoras theorem. Let's do the first one. Draw a circle centered at O and mark point P outside of it as shown here. Let's join P and O. As you see here, the distance between P and O is 10 centimeters, it is given. And the circle, even though I have not marked, circle radius is 6 centimeters. Now let's draw a perpendicular bisector to line PO. When I mean perpendicular bisector, it means I want to divide this into two equal parts. How do I do it? With the help of compass we can do. Let's say that you keep a needle of your compass at point P and draw two arcs as shown here. Right? Without disturbing the position of compass, you simply take the needle onto O now and draw two more arcs. These two arcs, pairs of arcs are intersecting, right? Cutting each other at these points. Now what I'm going to do is, let me draw a line passing through these 2 points. As you see here, it is dividing line OP into two equal parts. Let's write that. Point M divides line PO into two equal parts such that PM equal to MO. The next step is we have to draw a circle keeping the M as center and radius R as PM or MO. It means in this particular case, it is going to be 5 centimeters. Let's draw that circle. Now, as you see here, this particular circle has intersected with the original circle at 2 points, right? This is one point, this is another point. Let's name those points. Those points are now called A and B. Let me draw line AP and line PB. These two are called tangents to the given circle. PA and PB are the tangents to the given circle from external point P, which is 10 centimeters away from the center of the circle of radius 6 centimeters. So we are done with first part of it. Now we have to measure lengths of these two tangents and then verify using Pythagoras theorem, right? Let me connect A and O. That is your radius, right? OA is radius. That is equal to 6 centimeters. And we know OP is 10 centimeters. Quickly, let's take a measure of these. OP is 10 units on this scale, right? And AO is 6 units, right? Now let's take measure of AP. That is 8 units. Let's take a note of that. Now using Pythagoras theorem, we have to find AP value. AP by measurement we got 8 centimeters. Similarly for BP also you will be getting 8 centimeters. I have not done it, but if you take measure of it, you are going to get 8 centimeters for BP also. That is another tangent, right? Now let's make use of Pythagoras theorem. Let us consider triangle OAP right angled at A. This is a right angle, right? Because tangent is perpendicular to the radius through the point of contact. This is a theorem. So angle A is 90 degrees. It means OP is hypotenuse of this particular triangle, right? So as per Pythagoras theorem, OP square is going to be OA square plus AP square. We know values of OA and OP. This we know, but we don't want to use it. Actually, we want to verify that, right? It means we want to get what is the value of AP using Pythagoras theorem. So let's substitute OP equal to 10 and OA equal to 6 into this equation such that AP square you're going to get as 64. Right? It means AP equal to root 64, that is equal to 8 centimeters. This is exactly what you got by measurement. Right? Similarly, when you measure BP also you're going to get 8 centimeter. Right? I hope you like the video. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel Learn to Score. Thank you.